Hi, I'm Peter Henriksen, and we are here at the first edition of Guitars and Growlers, where we're bringing together two of our favorite things, beer and guitars. And we have with us Rick from Riccoli Brewery and Greg German Guitars. And we're going to sample each of their respective wares. So for starters, tell us a little bit about yourself, Rick, your background and beer making.
I have a brewery in Wheat Ridge here. We're just down the street from you guys, and we're the first Colorado craft brewery that's dedicated to making real full-flavored craft beer and backing the glutens out of it. So I found the process. I brewed for a lot of other folks for over 20 years, and when I started my own place, I kind of thought, I needed a niche to differentiate myself from the over 300 breweries around here. So. So we started jumping first, and saying the G word. A lot of people hear gluten and they just assume it just tastes like crap. So
right.
We're kind of out on a mission to kind of change that. So I found a method that I can make full flavored craft beer just the way I like it and reduce the glutens without changing it. So people come in, if they didn't know that the gluten was removed, if we didn't tell them, they wouldn't know. And that's the whole idea. Yeah, everything we do tests out to less than 10 parts per million gluten.
My wife is celiac, so she'll be pleased.
And that's the whole thing. Yeah. We're trying to make good, full-flavored beer accessible to everybody.
Greg, how about you? How did you get started?
I used to be a medical illustrator and a 3D animator, and I kind of got burnt out on the career. I was in the dot-com bubble. I went to work for a company in Iowa for 4 years that went public and went from 70 employees to 1,000 over 4 years by purchasing more companies and growing and working us 80-hour weeks. And then it all went bust and we all got laid off. I came to Denver to teach 3D modeling and animation. I found a guitar maker about the same time. I had been building furniture on the side, and I had made a solid body guitar, and I had been spending all of my time in class modeling a 3D guitar as a class experiment to show students modeling stuff. And I had made a full archtop 3D model before I ever made the jump to actually go make an actual guitar. And I apprenticed with Edward Dick, who used to work at the Old Town Pick and Parlor repair shop just a few miles from here.
Sure. Great. Rick, show us what you brought.
All right. Hey, let's start easy. I brought a really flavorful vanilla stout. It's one of the things that aren't really available by most people is dark beer that doesn't have any gluten in it.
Sure.
And this was kind of the basis. In 2013, we won this thing called the Brewing and Business Experience-ship with Sam Adams, and we're able to travel out to Boston and brew a beer with them that was based off of this beer. And they took us under their wing for a year and gave us a lot of good advice.
So this is the beer
stuff. This is the beer with vanilla in it that caught their attention. It's got a nice Mexican vanilla in it. And
where do you typically do you have a standard source for your ingredients, like a Mexican vanilla? Where would you get that?
I get that off the web. Once I find something I like, I source it, find the manufacturer, and then get it wholesale.
Okay.
But as far as grains and stuff like that, Denver area is such a brewing mecca. There are so many warehouses. I can call today and pick up grains from across the world tomorrow.
Really?
In fact, most of the beers, all the ingredients I use are all GMO-free, European-sourced ingredients. Because since we're making beers for sensitive people, sometimes people think they're sensitive to gluten, and maybe it's GMOs. A lot of times they'll say, I can have a croissant in France, and I'd have no trouble, and I can eat pasta in Italy, and I come here and I have, pasta and I blow up like a balloon. So they don't mess with GMOs in Europe.
Sure.
So I source all my grains from, Germany, Belgium, England, Scotland.
Okay. Your turn, Greg. Tell us about one of your guitars.
This guitar on the far left here, our left, is a hybrid prototype guitar that I just made that I'm kind of intrigued by. I put a pickup in it this morning, that we'll have to see how it sounds. But it's designed with a player in Rochester, New York, named Kinlaw Nelson, and he and I designed it. He's played all his life, 40 odd years of being a professional musician, where he's taken classical guitars and put steel strings on them. And by doing that, he would replace the bridge outright with a bridge that he would make that's pinless like this, but beefier than a typical nylon string bridge, and string it up and play it till it explodes.
Okay.
You know, but an inexpensive, plywood topped classical guitar can handle more tension than a really nice one. And when you put steel strings on it, you're putting it under almost twice as much tension it was ostensibly designed for. It sounds very different than a typical Martin, you know.
Right.
And so that was his concept, and he's had guitars built with that idea in mind of a classical guitar body, so the shape is not a typical steel shape.
Yeah, when you brought this in, I was thinking, what is that exactly?
Yeah, everything about the measurements of this guitar are the same as a nylon string guitar. The neck width is wider, the neck shape is different. I didn't do a slotted peg head because I didn't want you to think it was actually a nylon string guitar, but everything else about it is even including the bracing pattern is not a steel string pattern, but I just beefed it up just enough so they can handle steel strings.
Okay.
And so you get a very different tone out of it.
It's ostensibly a nylon string body, like a Friedrich body. So the back and top have very little taper, as opposed to a steel string has a good bit, like almost an inch of taper. Where at the neck, it's shallower, and at the butt of the guitar, it's deeper. This has very little taper, like a nylon string. The neck width is wider. It's 1 7/8, similar to a nylon string, almost. But the bracing pattern, it's a lattice braced guitar with a pinless bridge, and it gives a very extreme difference from an X-braced guitar. But you can plug it in. It's made for a really sensitive, guitar that's really responsive.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Those are the light strings. What gauge?
They're 12s.
12.
Yeah, I was gonna say they feel really light. It's got a beautiful sound.
What's the scale on
Easy to
that?
play.
650 millimeters, same as a classical, and so it works out to 25.6 or so.
Okay. So what's your last beer here, Rick?
I have
Brought for us?
one last beer here. This is called the Static, and
Personal favorite of mine.
this is kind of we call it an extreme beer. It's high in alcohol. It's high in hop bitterness. It's 13% alcohol.
Holy cow.
We actually entered it as a barley wine and won a silver medal last year at the Great American Beer Festival, and then won again at the State Fair this year. A silver again as a barley wine. But it's really at the brewery we serve it as pretty much a triple IPA because it's just very hoppy. It's brewed just like an IPA. It just has a lot of alcohol.
So when you say IPA, double IPA, triple IPA, what does that mean?
Well, IPAs are hop-forward beers. The IPA stands for India Pale Ale, which is back in, oh gosh, the 1700s. The English used to brew all kinds of beers, and they would ship them to, they had the spice trade with India.
Sure.
So they would send these empty ships, and they wouldn't fare very well. So they packed the hulls of these ships with kegs of beer to not only give the British troops in India some beer to drink and stuff like that, but it would help ballast and help the ships sail
Really?
to India better. So when they got there, they'd load it up with spices and bring it back. But they found out if they increased the alcohol a little bit and the hop content in the beer, that it would kind of naturally preserve it, and it would
Hops are
still be
preserving.
drinkable beer by the time it got all the way to India.
Gotcha.
And it's amazing how Indian food and IPAs really pair up well together. It's a really nice curry and a good stiff IPA.
So what's a double, and
So,
in this case a triple?
so then
IPA?
double, triple, that starts referring to alcoholic strength.
Okay.
Like a pale ale, which is kind of the low end of a hop forward beer, is going to be around 4.5%, 5%, maybe 5.5%. You get higher than that, around 6 to 7% is generally what they call an IPA, and they're maybe a little more aggressively hopped. Once you get over 7.5%, it starts becoming what they call a double IPA, just because it denotes it being stronger.
Sure, okay.
Twice the malt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at our brewery, we've got a session IPA at 5%. We've got a 6.8% single IPA. Our double IPAs range in 9% category. So when I made an IPA that was 13%, yeah, well, that's a triple. It might actually be a quadruple. So when we enter it into contests, and judges have their rules, and they like to pigeonhole everything.
Sure.
So we call it an American barley wine. So it's
Okay.
of wine
Is that
strength.
because of the alcohol content?
Because of the
Okay.
alcohol, it's way too big. Yeah, if we were to put it against other double IPAs that are 7%, I mean, it's totally a different beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But very drinkable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very drinkable.
Knock you on your ass, but it's nice.
Truly medicinal.
Next guitar.
Let's see this other art shop.
Sure.
So, because this one I was checking out as soon as I walked in.
Yeah,
It's
it's
stunning.
gorgeous.
The inlays are just so cool, so sweet.
Is that the one with the inlays on the outside? Of the, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my standard inlay pattern for fret markers. That's my Magnolia model.
So what's that wood on the top?
That's redwood. And it's reclaimed redwood, so it had a former life as some sort of architectural thing. It was probably a mantle or a fireplace. And I purchased it. It came as just solid rectangular boards that was reclaimed from architectural wood in a house or something.
Huh.
But it's a beautiful piece. Redwood is, like I was saying, it's at the far extreme of the strength to weight ratio side of things. And so, like Adirondack spruce, you could go very, very thin and have enough strength to support the strings. With this, you end up leaving almost twice as much wood to get the same amount of strength. And so it changes the mass, it changes how, changes the base resonance of that top at given dimensions you've got for.
So relatively,
Increase the
that's a
bass
heavier.
resonance?
It makes it sound mellower, darker. The voice is the resonance of that top is lower, and so it doesn't have the sparkly trebles that the other guitar has. You'll see.
So that'd be good material for like a baritone guitar or something.
It would be.
Yeah.
It's a lot more mellow.
You can hear the dust on it. It's awesome.
opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the sinker wood trend all about? And is redwood usually a part of that
Yes.
trend?
Well, if wood is underwater for a very long time, bacteria will eat the guts, the cytoplasm of every cell. And so after it dries out, it is lighter, and it has a different mass. There's more air in it.
Right. Oh, and more porous, obviously.
Yeah. And so that's sinker wood.
Hmm.
It also sinks when you put it in water. It'll like completely drop to the bottom. It's interesting. It doesn't float.
How long does it take for, from the time you cut it down to the time you can build it into a guitar for wood to be
while.
toolable?
Ponded wood, they said that, wood that was stored under a pond, like in the mud.
Sure.
They say maybe the secret to Stradivarius is wood supply. Because that's the way, wood was stored. You can have wood that's like 400 years old, in that sense. But if you cut down a tree and it's green, it's going to need to season for probably a minimum of 5 years is probably the very shortest amount of time. But you would prefer for it to have been cut and seasoned where you are for a decade or more.
Sure.
So that I buy wood and it sits in my shop for a long time, and so it can acclimatize to Colorado's drier conditions. But yeah, you don't want to go chopping down a tree and building a guitar with it that year.
Right. And do you have specific places you're constantly getting materials from, or are you always on the lookout for?
I get emails from tons of wood suppliers, and if I see something that looks like a good deal or it's something I don't have enough of, I buy wood. There's plenty of luthiers that buy wood as their like retirement plan. A few of the better named luthiers, Samoji bought a lot of Brazilian rosewood back in the day, and it's worth it's a retirement.
So it can
Sure.
appreciate over time.
Yeah, you could have $100,000 in wood in your shop easy.
Huh. Really?
Yeah. Like
No,
the
just
back,
steel and concrete.
the back and sides, like the back and sides for that guitar. It's an 1/8 thick piece of wood that's like 2 feet long and that wide, and then the sides are a little longer, but same width or same thickness. A single set of that in Brazilian rosewood can cost you $3,000 wholesale.
Wow.
Wholesale. And so, yeah, but that's Indian rosewood, which is a couple $100.
Right.
You got the wood for the back and sides of the guitar.
Yeah.
But Brazilian, and there's other woods that are very dear.
They're not, what's the export reality with Brazilian rosewood?
You don't want to take it across an international border.
Okay. I've heard there's
It's very
issues.
difficult,
Yeah.
and you could have your instrument seized and destroyed.
So
in the
if
airport.
you've got a supply that you bought, it's like ivory, if you've got it, it appreciates in value because there is no more legally
Right.
coming in.
Yeah, I mean, since 1968, you can't cut down a Brazilian rosewood tree. But the interesting thing is, all the trees that were harvested before then were cut down by portable sawmills that couldn't handle the trunk because it gets so wide, the base. So
Okay.
they would lop it off 30 feet off the jungle floor, and those stumps are worth millions.
Wow.
And so they're going back to
They're
find
going
the
back to
stumps.
find the stumps.
The stumps that were cut in the 50s.
Really?
And they have a 30-foot stump that's worth millions and millions of dollars
Wow.
now because it's dried.
We're Brewery Riccoli Limited, and what were you saying? What else?
Website?
Oh yeah. All right, we're located at 44th and Wadsworth. Brewery Riccoli Limited. We're www.breweryriccoli.com, and we're on Facebook. You can search out Riccoli, and it'll find us on Twitter, Facebook, and that's kind of where we push announcements, new beers,
Sure.
specials, things like that. We have a really unique Ask a Lawyer night. So if you got legal troubles, he will let you know what's going on.
And is there a way, if somebody's not in the area, if they want to try some of your beer, do you do any canning or anything like that?
We're bottling. liquor stores. We're in Denver, about as far south as Castle Rock and up to Boulder right now.
Okay.
We're after the first of the year, we're in the process of getting some new tanks in the brewery and a big chiller. So beginning of next year, we're going to actually get a canning line and shift from bombers to 12 and 16 ounce cans and try to be a little bit more accessible and mainstream.
Greg, you're
GermanGuitars.com is my web address, and I do repairs. Usually, I say I have business hours, but I like to do by appointment.
Sure.
So that make sure I'm not at the grocery store when you come knock on my door, or I'm not down with hearing protection on routing something and I don't hear the doorbell. But my dog is not a great doorbell. So yeah, GermanGuitars.com will get a hold of me.